Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for another video. So today's video is going to be my first ever build video in the new Storybook Vale biomes. I'm so excited. I want to do my first build in either the bind or Mythopia, and you guys actually voted on my community tab for the bind. So we are going to be creating a simple cozy cottagecore village down in the right section of the bind. So let's get started. So I actually started by decorating some of the bridge. Now I do kind of start with this and then come back to it later, purely because I wanted to figure out what buildings I needed to use up here, if I had enough space for all the buildings in the lower section or not. So I did start by decorating it with some of the foliage. And you'll see me at the start of the video kind of figuring out the hitbox on here, because obviously as it is a bridge, the hitbox can be a little bit funky on either side. You can't really get things completely symmetrical sometimes, so I kind of played around with different foliage, what would fit and what wouldn't, and kind of tested things out. So if you kind of see me going back and forth putting things in different spots, it is because I'm just kind of testing out the hitbox on here. I hadn't built a tool on the bridge yet, so I wanted to kind of have a little play around with it and figure out what was going where. I wanted to include some seating on here and lots of foliage, so I kind of decorate around that. And once I kind of got the bridge where I wanted it to be for this starter point, I then started working on the actual section I was doing, which is the right hand side of the bind. I wanted to start with this smaller section because I wanted to kind of test the building down here, figure out what I wanted to use, and the other side seemed quite overwhelming to start with because it's such a big open space. So I decided to start with this side and obviously make this my main like village hub. Obviously I started by popping in the main street path because this is like the perfect one to use down here, and one of the new craftable fountains. And then I started figuring out the foliage that is going in these two small sections. I wanted to really do this build section by section because I could kind of played around with where I wanted things to go, but I wasn't 100% sure on like the hitboxes for the trees and all that good stuff. So I really did like go bit by bit with this. So I started off, as I said, with these foliage sections and kind of figured out what stuff I wanted to use and what kind of trees and things fit really well. Now, something I do want to say at the start when it comes to obviously foliage and my kind of builds going forward in the Storybook Vale in general is I am going to be taking the opportunity of having such a big like amount of item limit left, obviously because I haven't really built here. The item limit is very, very low, so I obviously will be taking the opportunity to make things very full, very overgrown, give it this really nice kind of like autumn forest look, especially here in the bind. So if you are on a lower item limit, just be aware of that fact. You may have to just use a few less plants, which you could definitely still get this look with having a few less plants and making it less overgrown. I just very much went overboard because I really wanted to give it this kind of like autumnal forest look, and went very over the top with the foliage. So that is something to just be mindful of if you are kind of trying to keep things on a low limit, or try and figure out how you want to kind of keep things a bit more structured. Now the next section I worked on was my own player house. As you can see, I've got the house from the Magic Edition equipped because it obviously just fits so well down here. And as I had that equipped, I decided not to use the blank version of this house. So I probably will use that somewhere else in the bind. But for now, I wanted to obviously decorate my house. Now I wanted to obviously give it this kind of easy to access section, put it right near the front of the stairs so that when I'm running around and gathering stuff, it doesn't kind of take me forever to be able to get back to my house. I want it to be quite simple. So I did pop it in this little corner section here, added some fence around, and then obviously started decorating with some trees. Now something I did do in this build is I made everything kind of be a combination of the bind trees as well as the Mythopia trees, because I just loved how the yellow and orange and reds all looked together. I think it just had this perfect autumnal look. So I do kind of utilize all the different trees from this biome. I do use a couple of little plants from Ever After as well. So this is a good combination of kind of everything. I wanted to see what worked well and what kind of complemented each other. So I started dotting those in, made one of the new little cobblestone pathways, and then started decorating within this little like garden section of the house. Now after I'd kind of finished off where I wanted the like house section to be for now, I decided to obviously extend the pathway and start doing all of the kind of foliage bits to that, and then start kind of figuring out where I wanted some other buildings to go. But I wanted to create this really nice border using some of the new craftable fencing, which is this gorgeous like bookshelf with autumnal leaves at the bottom of it. I feel like this is a fence that's quite hard to kind of integrate without it looking a bit strange. So that was something that I knew would be a little bit of a challenge. So I kind of loved that fact of figuring that out. So I decided to obviously add a tree in here, and then obviously put the bell library in here, but at an angle to kind of give it a little bit more of a structure, make it look less boxy. I didn't really want to put all the houses just in rows because I felt like it wouldn't really fit this kind of biome. It wouldn't kind of look as whimsical as I wanted it to. So I added that in at an angle, and then I also added in the Bell farmhouse because I just think this works so well in this kind of autumnal biome. It seems like one of the houses that just made the most sense to be in here. And then obviously on this back row I have my kind of like shopping section, which is obviously Scrooge's, the Remy restaurant, and also the little bakery from the premium shop, which I just felt like works so well in here. So I kind of made this into a road section on this back wall because obviously I wanted to show this was the more structured kind of town shopping section, I guess, whereas the houses and the other buildings are a lot more kind of cluttered. And then I started figuring out some foliage to go behind this Bell farmhouse to kind of blend it in and integrate it into this section. Now around Scrooge's, I again wanted to go for quite a structured look, so I added some of the iron brick fences as well as these really nice new fence posts we can craft, where they're like the kind of pedestal bit with the lamps on top. I just felt like these are so good for framing the fencing. And then I started working on the little courtyard for Remy's restaurant. Obviously in this back section I wanted to add a little courtyard where I could kind of create this really kind of cozy little hangout spot. Now for the Remy spot, as you see as I go forward, I go for a much more relaxed look rather than a kind of fancy restaurant, because I felt like it just fit more with the vibe of this kind of DLC in this space. So I added in the new Flynn bar that we got from his friendship awards, and I wanted to kind of create this nice kind of old school style little cafe pub space, I guess, and kind of decorate it in that style this time round. And then obviously it started figuring out how I could do seating in here to kind of fit that vibe. Now obviously as I added foliage around the back of these shops and kind of in between these gaps in the rest of the biome, I wanted to give it a lot of leveling, so I wanted to use different heights. I also wanted to make a good opportunity of using some of these big kind of rock structures we got and tree structures. Now obviously going forward, if we start getting more houses and house skins that I feel like will fit in here, then obviously I can change some of these out for some of those to kind of expand on this area. But for now I really wanted to make the most of using these new items, kind of explore using them as a way to kind of really make this biome still feel overgrown, even though there's a lot of buildings in here, and it still really have this whimsical village feel. So that was kind of my main aim with those. And then I started going through some more furniture and figuring out things that I may have missed, like I added a little piano into the Remy setup, and also kind of some furniture outside Scrooge's and the bakery. So I kind of just added to that and I made sure I'd kind of included everything that I wanted to include. For this back little section that leads you out to Mythopia, I wanted to obviously again kind of match what we had on the entrance in from the library, which is just a very overgrown look. Now obviously in this build I did use a lot of foliage from the new DLC, but I also did add a bunch from the base game as well, like a lot of the sunlit plateau plants I added in here as well. So there is a big variety of what I used to kind of tie the oranges, yellows and reds together. And then I started obviously moving this forward in front of the Bell farmhouse, adding in some of the new little furniture pieces, such as the book with the little tree growing out of it and things like that, and kind of keeping it really different with how I bordered the path. But I definitely wanted to make sure the path of the border was just completely full and had a lot going on, because it just gave it this cluttered feel. Now for lighting in the biome, I decided to go for the craftable lamppost in the white colour. I was kind of debating between which lighting I wanted to do, whether I wanted to do more kind of natural lighting or if I wanted to go for these kind of built up fence posts, but I actually felt like these work so well for it being a little village. And then I obviously went around and added a bunch of the new little mushrooms you get from Ever After. I love these and how they glow in the dark, so I kind of dotted these around as they fit really well with the kind of autumnal look in here, and kind of pop those in spots where it add a little bit of extra lighting as well. Now for the top section where we have the bridge, I actually added in two houses in the end. I added in Gaston's house as well as the Halloween cottage from the premium shop. These are the two houses that I felt like fit so well in the town, but I just didn't have the space for. So I decided that on the bridge would be a really good spot for them. Now I don't know if they'll stay here forever. I may move them down to the left section of the bind when I get around to decorating it. I'm not sure yet, but for now I just really wanted to pop them up here as I felt like it looked really cool being able to fill these two big open spots next to the well. So around both houses I added in a bunch of furniture that kind of related to each house. So the Halloween cottage has a lot of crates and carts and pumpkins around it, and then obviously Gaston's has more of the kind of like archery set, hay bales, things like that would kind of make them both still fit the theme but definitely tie in more with the theme of the house as well. And obviously started adding those around to figure out the layout and the structure of where I wanted everything to go. Now the final touch in the build was to add some trees behind and also some foliage. Now as the trees up here give off like a green floor circle, they come up with like green grass in some parts and orange grass in some other parts. I tucked these right at the back because I didn't want that green to be visible at all. So I kept that right to the back and then added some other smaller pieces of foliage nearer the front to still give it this really nice overgrown look but without it being too visible. So this is the final build. As you can see, I've made it sunset and we are starting on the bridge, where straight away it is obviously glowing and lit up with the benches and all of the foliage. I've also crafted one of these new fountains to add up here. I didn't do it on the video, but I did it after. And then we obviously have the Halloween cottage on the left, where we have lots of pumpkins, lots of crates, barrels, and on the right we have Gaston's with his archery set, and obviously similar things to kind of match. And then as you can see from the top of the stairs, we have got our cozy little autumnal village. As soon as we come down, it is straight into all of the overgrown plants, obviously the mushrooms and the lighting everything up. Another one of these gorgeous fountains, which I definitely wanted to include down here. And then we have our little exit out to the other small section of the bind, and also the right hand section as well. And I feel like these fence posts do such a good job of kind of keeping it all in theme. And then the first thing we have on the left is my house, which I'm very much in love with. As you can see, I have kept it very whimsical. I've used the cobblestone path to lead me in, and then obviously a little seating area on the right, which eventually I'll probably fill with some of the new furniture and craftables that we're going to get from this DLC. But for now, I want to keep it really simple, really kind of pretty and cottagecore. And then as we head down, you can see past the bookshelves, we have got our next opening into the little town, where we have Belle's library on the right, tucked in this little section. We've got some seating and loads of books around to obviously fit with the library feel. And then obviously as we head out of there, we have her farmhouse on the left, which again just matches perfectly in this biome. This one is a lot more relaxed and has less of a fence structure around it, so I added in lots of bushes, lots of plants. And then on our exit out to Mythopia, we again have these really busy sidewalks, and then obviously lots of lighting around to keep it lit up. Scrooge's, I added a couple fountains into the front courtyard, and also obviously added the fence post again to keep everything lit up and obviously give Scrooge's a nice structure. Then as well as that, next to the bakery, I added in a little fountain in between that and Remy's. And then outside Remy's, obviously I've popped a little food board and also lots of candles and lighting. And then as we head down to the eating area, the seating bit, we have the bar from Flynn's Friendship Quest and some of the new chairs and this adorable cozy spot. And then finally we have our little walkway out to the beach, where I wanted to keep it open so we could get to the beach easily. I put in one of Tiana's water towers and lots of bushes and items to keep it on theme. So here are some shots of the final build. I hope you guys like it. I have to be honest, and I am obsessed with it. I think there's probably things I'll probably tweak and change that I maybe won't end up liking eventually. But for now, I'm really loving having my first build ever in Storybook Vale. I think it's so nice when after I built this, I was running around and kind of going into my house and things like that. And it was so lovely to have it in a proper setup. And I really loved using all the new furniture. I felt like they worked really well and they suited the build so much. Let me know down below what you think of this build. Did you enjoy it, and have you decorated anywhere in Storybook Vale yet? I obviously do have Storybook Vale ideas and things I want to do here, so if there are any you want to see in particular, please do let me know in the comments so I know. And then hopefully I can get around to those quicker and obviously get those out for you. But thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you enjoy DDV content, builds, information, everything good like that. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!